Hey y'all! Well, this video is going to be more related to the Skunky Designs business. And I know in the past when I talked about this, I got comments about, well, I'm not tuning into your channel for an infomercial. And so if you don't want to hear about my business, just turn off the video now. I'm not forcing you to watch this. I know some of y'all are interested in this stuff, so let me kind of go over how things have been going the first 6 months, some of my frustrations, and probably going to be asking you guys to give me some comments below on what you think about these ideas. I know some of you folks, and you can go ahead and do it, you in the comments and say, I told you so, because yeah, some of you guys were right. I made a mistake by allowing people to do too much customization on these things, but I thought that it would be kind of cool and different to let people be more involved in the build process of these things, but you're going to find out in a minute why that's turned into a disaster. Well, maybe not a disaster, but yeah, not ideal. So one reason I started to do this is I was endlessly getting emails about people wanting to buy an amplifier from me. They'd see my builds, they weren't capable of DIY building them, obviously like this amp here that I'm selling. I did a build series on it. There's schematics on the website, the bombs on the website. If you want to build this yourself, go have fun, because you can build it yourself. I'm not hiding anything. This is open source, and several people have built these, maybe tweaked them a little bit to their own custom, whatever they thought was cool. And yeah, that's what DIY is all about. But let's face it, not everybody has the skills to do this, especially like the fab work. Had people send me amps to repair that they tried to build. Clearly everybody doesn't have the soldering skills to be able to do this or understand schematics and all that kind of stuff. Get lost. And so, yeah, I decided, hey, I'm going to build these and I'm going to price them what I think is a reasonable price point for a hand-assembled, made in USA, thoroughly tested amplifier using good parts. And then about halfway through the build series, or halfway through the build production, I discovered these ISO Tango transformers. So I started making that an option, like a $500 upgrade. If you want to get these, I can use those. And then I was letting people like choose how many inputs they wanted, whether they wanted to, I did this little rocker switch mod where you can have two inputs on the back and it uses this little rocker switch, but switch between them. You can choose the color of the trim. Do you want the, inputs in the side? Do you want it in the back? Like a custom wired one for one guy with the switch where in one position it uses the rear jacks, bypasses the volume control, so be used with a preamp, and then flip it the other way, uses the side jacks that go over to the EAR clone preamp that goes through the volume control to listen to the vinyl. So I thought it was cool to be able to have those options for people. Here's the problem. When I first started, I knew there was going to be about maybe 2.5 months of lag time between taking the orders in mid-January and when the first amps would go out the door, because Edcore's got 6 to 8 weeks on the output transformers and I had none here. And so I also ordered a batch of them from Musical Power Supplies. Wasn't sure which ones I was going to be using. Had to do a little bit of experimentation to see which ones I really liked. And with the early experimentation, I like the way the Edcore sound. We'll get into that in another video with what happened with that. And we may end up using the Musical Power Supply ones going forward. But there was some mislabeling on the transformers that got things kind of wacky. But yeah, that's just the kind of stuff that happens when you're starting in production with something. So anyway, I settled on these 5K 15 watt Edcore output transformers, this Hammond iron. Kind of settled on this dark bronze hammer finish paint. So I take the iron all apart and scuff them down and prime them and paint them with this nice paint. I swap out all the hardware for black oxide hardware because I think it looks nicer, and just trying to build these like I would for myself. And then again, just giving people options on, do you want these gold trim rings? Do you want them, with a volume control? And then early on, I was starting to run into some issues. I had one guy that wanted 2 volume controls, and not stereo pots, but mono pots, so I'd have to go special order those. And then I don't like the trim rings, I just want bolts, and he wanted some specific kind of hardware and all this stuff. And I called him on the phone, and we talked for probably 2 hours about this deal. And then when I put together a whole estimate for it and sent it to him, he couldn't even be bothered to email back and say no thanks. He just ghosted me and just quit responding. So, yeah, I know that happens in sales. You get people that come in and they're just tire kickers, and they waste a bunch of your time with no intention of ever buying anything. And they just want to talk. And some of these folks, I'm not sure that isn't what they're doing, is they just want somebody to talk to, and they get a phone number and they sit there and talk to you for 2 hours with no intention of ever buying anything. But that's a whole different thing. I realize that that's part of when you get into retail selling people stuff. And, there's been people I've talked to that I've told them that my amp's not a good fit for what they want to do. They've got some super low efficiency speakers in some giant room. It's like, yeah, a 7-watt amp isn't going to do what you want to do. You need to, find some kind of higher power push-pull amp, or stick with solid state or whatever, and just, I'm fine telling people don't buy my stuff because I don't want people to buy something that's not going to work for them. So all that stuff I realize is kind of being a virtual showroom, is you're going to spend some time talking to folks. The problem is in early January, when I first announced I was releasing this, about a dozen people committed to buying an amp. And given that I was this early in the production cycle, I didn't want to take deposits from people because I couldn't guarantee when they were going to get built or if they were going to get built. I mean, I wasn't totally finished with, figuring out if these were going to sound good. So I told people that you're probably going to be 2 or 3 months, and, I'm still working out the details of like what they're all going to be about, and, I'll keep video updates on it, and yeah, thanks for your interest. And so after I get some iron here and kind of figure out what I'm going to be doing, and I think I did have one pair of 5K output transformers. Anyway, I got the design settled in February, and I contacted all the people on the list, said, here's what I'm going to be building. Are you still interested? And here's the price point. It's, just under $2,000 for the base amp. It's $75 if you want a volume control. It's another $75, which I've now said it's $100 because it turned out to be a lot more of a hassle than I thought. If you want extra inputs, that's another $75. And what color do you want? Where do you want the jacks? All that stuff. We worked out all the details, made an Excel spreadsheet, got all these people's names down. And so I'm ordering transformers, chassis, got $15,000 worth of parts out of my pocket, buying all this stuff to build these people amplifiers. Well, about half of them just ghosted me when I got their amp built. And the irritating thing was, some of these folks, I was like sending them pictures the week of building their amp, showing them the insides, here's the way I'm laying out your speaker jacks and all that. And they're like, oh yeah, that looks great. I really like those speaker jacks. I'm really excited to listen to it. And then I'd send them the invoice, and then that's the last I'd hear from them. So they actively participated in encouraging me to finish building their amplifier with no intention of actually buying it. And I just don't understand. Do people think that's funny? That, I can remotely waste this person's time and their money building me something, and I'm just not going to I'm just going to delete their emails now. Yeah. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that there's people out there like that. And like this specific amp that's sitting here in front of me, I was building this for a customer, and I'd sold him a phono stage. And he was super happy with the way it sounded. And I helped him sort out his turntable phono cartridge issues and stuff. And so anyway, he said he wanted to get a dual input, with this little rocker switch thing that I came up with, put inside here, that you can switch between two inputs, put the inputs all in the back, and then, did it in his color. And he had said that he was interested in the ISO Tango iron, to do the upgrade. I told him it's probably going to be another $500. That's the price difference between the headquarters and the ISO. And I got some nicer tube sockets and some non-inductive resistors that are pretty expensive to put on the cathode of the upper tubes and all that. And he was, all in on it. And then during the week of building it, he emailed me and said, my tax info came back and I got hammered. And I'm not going to be able to buy that amp now. And it might be 6 months or 8 months or even a year before I'll have the money to buy it. So if you want to sell it to somebody else, or just, I can give you some money for the deposit or something, for the time that you spent. And I didn't mean to mislead you. And he was very apologetic. And, I get that. Things happen. And if somebody communicates with me like that, it's not, I can figure it out, and I can understand that things happen. If you have a death in the family, if you lost your job, or got a car wreck, or whatever happened, just let me know. But just to ghost me, that's BS, in my opinion. So the reason this amp's still sitting here is I decided to make this my personal amp. After I listened to it, it's like, ooh, man, those ISO transformers do sound good. And it's kind of nice having two inputs. I had never done that before. If I'd built it for myself, I would have probably put one of them in the side to hook up to the phono stage. But hey, and who knows, 6 or 8 months from now, that guy may email me back and say, hey, I got the money now to buy that amp and I want to get it. And it'll be sitting there waiting on him, be nice and burned in. And in the meantime, I'm enjoying listening to it. And so I had a personal amp with the Edcore iron that was in the right trim color for someone who wanted one, and they wanted the switch, one on the side, one on the back, and that one was built with a pair on the side. So all I really had to do was put the switch on the side, add another pair of RCA jacks in the back, and had another amp ready to sell. So no harm, no foul, and I ended up with a nice one for myself. So at that point, I decided to start taking deposits. And I started telling people, between $400 and $500 down, for me to get started on or to put you on the waiting list. Because I had all these people ghost me. And sure, eventually I'll sell all these transformers and I'll sell all these, amps and chassis and stuff. But I probably wouldn't have gone out and bought $15,000 of them at once if I knew there was only 5 people that were actually going to buy amps. And the other 6 or 7 people were going to bail. And so, like I said, that's why I put a deposit down, was so that I'm ensuring that people are genuine about wanting it. And there's Dolly. She's all healed up. She's doing great. For you folks that have been asking about Dolly, yeah, she's all healthy again, which I'm super glad about. Anyway, so had a guy that I emailed him the week that I was building his amp. And he had put a $400 deposit down on it. And I'd already drilled the chassis and had the power transformers mounted, and I was mounting the tube sockets and doing them all in his trim color. And I thought, hey, before I get to deep in this. There were actually two people I was working on a pair of. One of the guys, I'm still working on it. I promise I'll get to it. I just got sidetracked, which happens. But anyway, I emailed both of these guys. I was like, hey, when you ordered your amp, this wasn't really an option, but for an extra $500, I can build you a deluxe version. Before I mount the tube sockets and get all that stuff soldered in, let me, give you this option of you get, gold-plated contact tube sockets. They're like 3 times expensive as the standard ones. You get some ISO Tango output transformers. You get non-inductive resistors on the cathode and, a couple other little goodies. And it's a $500 upgrade. And one guy was like, nah, I'm okay with the Ed core irons just to build it like we talked about, but thanks for contacting me. Second guy, hey, I'm really excited that you're getting to my amp, and I don't want the Ed core iron, but thanks for checking in with me. So I'm like, cool. So I go back to working on their amps, and I drill the holes in the chassis the way they wanted it set up, and then I guess it should have been a red flag when they said, don't put the badge on it. I don't, I'll put it on myself, just put it in the box. Which seemed a little weird, but so anyway, I get back to working on this amp. About 3 hours later, and I'm not one of those people that checks I don't have my phone in my pocket or sitting on my desk, and I'm not just, hawking over my emails. But then that evening, I'm checking through my emails. He says, oh, I was too quick responding. I just remembered that I had taken my reel-to-reel in for repair, and that's going to cost money that I'm not going to really have to buy your amplifier. Stop. Do not build my amp, and I want my deposit back. So first of all, you've put a deposit down on this. We've been in contact. I mean, I look back and 3 weeks before, I told the guy, hey, we're coming up in the queue. I'm just making sure you still want your amp. He's like, yeah. So sometime between there and now, he decides he's going to take his reel-to-reel someplace for repairs. And he forgets about that I'm building an amp for him? And then that morning, he forgets. And then all of a sudden in the afternoon, he has an epiphany that not only does he not want the amp built, he's insisting he get his deposit back. Now, I don't know about you, but when I put a deposit on something, it's implied that you're giving them a deposit to ensure that you're actually going to follow through on the deal. Not that this is oh, you're just holding my money for a couple of months like a bank deposit, and I'm going to want to make a withdrawal later. But I talked to one of my attorney friends, and they're like, well, if you didn't specifically have a signed contract that says it's a non-refundable deposit, he's going to do a Visa reversal or a PayPal reversal. Then that happens, then my account gets dinged, and then I get to pay all these dispute charges and stuff. And even as it is, then I get to eat the PayPal fees on his deposit to give it back to him. So that screws me out of $20. And when I sent the email back, I explained that to him. And then his response was, thanks for being so professional. Or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I was so pissed off, I wanted to just throw my phone at him. But hey, it wasn't me being professional. This was me knowing that you would reverse the charges or ding me on PayPal if I didn't give you your money back. And you know that wasn't right. And so I did a Facebook post, and all the comments were like, what a sleaze. Who would do that to somebody that's a small business like this? And yeah, I'm pretty sure that everybody knew what was going on. So anyway, now we're at the point about what am I going to do going forward. And I've got one more of these to build. And the final stages are a different deal. They're either silver or gold. And I just build them and people get what they get. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do with these amps. Is I'm just going to build them the way I want to build them. They're not going to come with a switch and extra RCA jacks. They're going to come with one pair in the back. They're going to come with a volume control, I'm going to build some of them silver, some of them gold. Some of them may have ISO Tango iron. I'm just going to kind of randomly build them and have them for sale. And then you pay for the full price and you get whatever I've built, or you just don't buy it. And if you want some weird custom thing, yeah, that's kind of off the table, at least as far as regular kind of production stuff. Now, if somebody does want me to custom build something, and you're not a previous customer that I've got a relationship with, you're going to pay 100% up front. You're going to be sent a contract that you are going to sign and scan and mail back to me that'll be legally binding, that says that is a non-refundable deposit, and when I build this amp, it's yours. And so I just can't keep doing this, guys. I mean, I feel like that this is really kind of taking the wind out of my sails about even wanting to do this. I think I told y'all on the front end, I'm doing this for fun because I enjoy doing it. And when I get people that are intentionally being disingenuous or just operating in bad faith, it makes me wonder why I'm even doing this. And so, like I said, going forward, once I got one more of these to build, and I've got a batch of the funnel stages that are spoken for that I got to get going on pretty soon here. And I got none of these preamps ordered right now. So going forward, I'm just going to build these when I feel like it, and I may advertise it on the channel, may put them on my website, and just have, hey, I've got, one of these wood color preamps done, and it's this much money. Or I've got a silver trim one of these. The ISO Tango ones are always going to be in gold, and that may be what I do, is just have the silver trim ones or the standard model, and then the gold trim ones are with the ISO Tango iron. That actually kind of makes sense. And then you can differentiate between the two models by the color of the trim. So, silver standard, gold's the deluxe. Build these as a wood model in deluxe, and then build the Hammond chassis black powder coated one as the standard version of this color preamp. And then as I go forward with my other products, do the same thing and just build them the way I'm going to build them. And I know some of y'all told me to do that at the start, and I wanted to try to make this fun, but hey, some other people have ruined it and made it not fun. So anyway, I don't want to make this too long. Definitely was kind of pissed off and just made this not fun this week. And that's one of the reasons I didn't do a Monday monologue. I thought I would probably rant and cuss so much they'd demonetize my channel. So, waited a few days to make this video. If you followed it through this far, thanks for supporting my channel. Thanks for listening to me rant. If you do have some thoughts on what I talked about today, please put it in the comments. And again, thanks you folks that are good, honest folks that I've been dealing with. And I'm happy still to talk to folks and try to help y'all figure out what's a good fit for your specific needs. And yeah, let's get back to having fun. So until the next video, have a nice day.